Hello everyone, I'm Justin, and for today's video, we are saving some fairies. Play the music. What do you do at the end of the world? Are you busy? Will you save us? For those of you wondering, no, this is not a question. This is an actual name of the original light novel. So let's just go on to call it WorldEnd. Okay, so WorldEnd is the story of the last human alive being the father figure to some fairies that fight against beasts. But the main focus of the story is not the fighting, but the drama, and all the world around it. So our protagonist is Willem, a hero and the last human alive. Depetrified after 500 years, he is tasked with taking care of some fairies, a type of human-like creatures that are able to wield human weapons necessary to fight beasts. Our main heroine is Cthulhu, a fairy with the blue hair on their last few years of life, as well as some other fairies that we meet during the anime. So let's move on to review this anime, the good, the bad, and its ending. As always, there will be major spoilers ahead, so take that in consideration. With that said, let's move on to our first topic. What I really enjoyed about World's End was the world building. We get to see how the different types of beastmen are thriving in a few floating islands, and how there is a bit of discrimination for races that look human. We learn that due to humanity creating 17 beasts that destroyed everything in the world, the beastmen were forced to move into floating islands outside of this beast reach. There is also the backstory of Willem, that we learn during the anime of how he fought 3 evil gods and was petrified defeating one of them. But no mention about those beasts in the past. That's kind of weird. The fairies are a type of magical beings that have similar affinity as humans, and thus can wield the weapons of the heroes long gone to fight the beasts. But our main story doesn't focus on the fighting, as Willem is tasked with taking care of the fairy kids in an orphanage. We learn how they live their lives without regard of their well-being. One of them even gets completely wasted and acting as if nothing happened. We learn that they are trained this way in order to use their life force fighting the beasts. We see a few episodes in which Willem takes care of the kids, teaches them, makes food, and even trains them in sword fighting. And to be honest, this really felt completely different from the usual fantasy shows that rely too much on fighting, but instead it was all about the drama, the interactions between the characters, and how the world was built, which combined with beautiful animation felt completely incredible. That is not to say that the fight scenes are not good. The last few episodes show how brutal they can get, combined with some emotional moments, but the focus of the characters and their emotions were the thing that carried the show for me. Another thing that I really enjoyed, as mentioned before, was the world building. We have this vast sky in which a few islands are the last bastion of beastmanity, and episode 6 gives us a brief understanding of what happened. We later learn the reality of this world, but we'll talk more about that later on. Aside from that, I felt like having a different take on fantasy was a thing that most authors never do, so I really appreciate the change of pace. But when it's time to fight, you know it, and the few fight scenes that we get were top notch, especially since this is not a 1v1 fight, but a fight against monsters which usually don't get the best animation. This felt really well made. Okay, so let's move on to our second topic. While the world building was a thing that I praised a lot of this anime, to be honest, it still felt a bit incomplete. We get these huge bits of information, but there feels like there is no follow-up, or we meet a long-gone friend, and instead of having an emotional reunion, they are just like, "Hey bro, nice meeting you. Okay, now go back to those fairies." Also, while the drama is good, sometimes I felt like it went a bit overboard. Okay, so we haven't seen each other in a month, but a friend of mine wants to see me. I'll be back in an hour. And it immediately starts crying. It felt like sometimes the plot was moving their feelings instead of the other way around. Also, it felt to me a bit more unrealistic that the last hero alive would decide to just ditch everything to be a caretaker instead of solving the mysteries of the world. But again, this just felt like the plot moving the string behind the curtains. But enough about my ranting, let's move on to our last topic. During the second part of the anime, we see Cthulhu's mental health deterioration. She starts to have some dreams of a small red-haired girl, and her hair and eyes starts to turn red too. It is revealed that she is transforming into a human and her mental state will kill her in a matter of time. We then go to an expedition to the surface in order to pick up some dog weapons and save some people that got stranded. It is there that a mass of beasts attack their ship, which turns to be impossible to defend. We see how the fairies struggle to defend the ship and are getting defeated. Cthulhu's mental state reaches a critical point, and she asks for the redhead girl help, thus fully transforming and using her life to protect Willem and the other fairies and saving them.
頑張れ
But in the aftermath, we see how only one of the fairies was left alive, while Cthulhu is dead and Willem and another fairy are missing. So we end up with the last scene depicting Cthulhu's birth. Now, I watched the anime long time ago, so I don't remember if this is mentioned, but there is a full story surrounding this red girl. These might be spoilers from the light novel, so take that in consideration. This girl, who apparently is a visitor from outer space, transformed the beasts into humans and populated the world with beastmen to control them. Yes, this happened long ago, so the beasts are the real inhabitants on Earth. 500 years before the events of the anime, the curse of the beast was being broken, and a cult known as the True World was trying to maintain their human forms by defeating the three gods that were protecting the last visitor, this redhead girl. But even after getting her, humanity wasn't able to maintain the curse, thus transforming back into the 17 beasts. It is also worthwhile mentioning that the events of this anime are only up to volume 3, so there is still a possibility of a second season explaining a bit more into it, since there are still 2 volumes left, as well as the sequel light novels that are already around 9 volumes. So I'm sure this isn't the last we've seen of World's End. And with that, we come to the conclusion of this anime review. What did you guys thought of this anime? If you could, how would you change the name instead of this long name that we have for the anime? Let me know in the comments below. Until then, see you guys next time.